Hey, yo, what's going on, guys? We got episode number 41 of Marvel Yap today. We're going to be talking about the Power On Crown Tournament from this past week, as well as Snap Reality Check here from the data mines to the present. What are these cards looking like now? As well as we have a tech card tier list for you guys at the very end of the video. But let's go ahead and jump right into it. And as always, we're joined by the hostest with the mostest, not my Dance. How are we doing today, Dance?
Doing solid, my man. This has been honestly, listen, I get it. We're gonna talk about the meta. We're talk about Thanos and stuff, but this has been a lot of fun in Snap this week. And I think it's in part due to Prodigy kind of like feeling like an extra fun piece in a lot of things, but we'll break stuff down later. But honestly, I've just been having a really fun time in Snap. How about you? What's been going on for you?
I've been really enjoying Snap too. This is the most amount of Snap I think I have played, at least overall this season, in like a very long time. Yes, Thanos might be everywhere, but it doesn't feel necessarily like you go into a Thanos matchup, you're going to lose. Like, I feel like there's definitely ways to win around it, and I think I've been better at, like, kind of min-maxing, like, my cubes and everything, too, which also has helped with enjoyment. So, like, it's not like I'm going in, I'm snapping, I'm losing every single game, potentially, because I'm like, okay, well, maybe I snapped, but I'm still going to retreat for 2. But it doesn't feel as bad retreating for 2 than for 4. But the wins you get against Thanos where they've snapped or you snap are just so rewarding that I feel like that's kind of filling the cup a little bit too.
Yeah, I feel that as well. The only thing I think that's gotten me with Thanos as of late has just been when I get Goliath. I think Goliath has been the only thing with Thanos that I'm like, I'm not having a good time anymore. That's literally the only piece I feel like. Or when they're like 2 tech cards final turn. But other than that in general, like yes, Thanos aside, like honestly, it's been a lot of fun, and I think Snap's been a pretty good time. But we're going to talk about tech cards. We're going to talk about Thanos, talk about the whole meta, a lot of things. Tuck. We're going to talk today. I'll leave this in. We're going to talk about the snap to reality. I was going to hand it off to you, but I already said half the things. Sorry. We're gonna snap back to reality. It's a little bit different of stuff, but we'll go straight into talking about the new card Elixir, as well as just the difference between the data mines that we get versus what we actually get in game, and how that affects our perception and our just personal opinions on that stuff. We're just going to do a little bit of a shorter section on that to start us off. Then we'll talk about the meta as the Crown Tournament just happened last weekend. Both Tucker and we both got to commentate, and that was a lot of fun. And we'll talk about the meta for that, potentially giving a prelude and insight into what we'll be seeing for the Golden Gauntlet that both Tucker and I will be competing in, not commentating in, this coming Saturday, and ending it off with just a ranking of tech cards. All the tech cards we could potentially think of, and potentially some that shouldn't be tech cards. Wait till the end. We're gonna break down all of them. It's gonna be a really fun section. But yeah, we can snap back to reality here.
Yeah, I want to do note, like, this card, this bundle just came out. I believe it might still be in the shop. It might not at the time of posting this.
I think it is.
Okay. So, but I want to say about this card. This, of course, data mine kind of the same way. It came out almost the same exact way. This card, I think, really fell under the radar for a while because the same time this came out was also Sanctum Showdown for the first time, and 3 cards also came out additionally.
Yeah.
Opposed to this past time where Hydra Stomper came out and 3 new cards came out as well. But Luke Cage was really running rampant, and I remember Dance and I were talking about, like, this card's not really going to be able to see a lot of success until the Luke Cage play rate dies down. And the Luke Cage play rate has died down, and this card does feel great. I think it feels, what makes this card feel really solid, as well as what I'm thinking is there's a bunch of different affliction enablers that kind of help with this, whether it is the Laufey that did come out the same week as Diamondback, or just even a Hazmat into Diamondback. That -2 afflicted power feels really solid. You, of course, have the ongoing enablers such as a Man-Thing or even a U.S. Agent to help with that. You also have Rocket and Groot hitting cards to affect with this. You have Scorpion to be able to hit cards to affect with this. So, like, I feel like this has more outlets now, and it's kind of hard for some people to calculate, wait, I'm actually going to be losing kind of 3 power in this lane now opposed to just 2 power, and it's not just specific to a cost of card. So, like, I feel like this card has potential to be good. Dance is about to bring up a great argument how this is kind of a glass cannon in a sense. Like, sometimes it's really good, sometimes
it's an all or nothing. It's just all or nothing. If your opponent has Luke Cage or some other way to mitigate it by maybe even a Shadow King, it does nothing. And that's just simply it. That is the only, and it's either it's Just one of those two things.
Yep.
And that is why this card can feel really awesome, right?
Mhm.
Because it can make your opponent go down to, make them lose, I believe, in total -8 power, making this in total a 311.
Yeah.
Which feels amazing, especially when it's on your opponent's cards. And sometimes it's done with addition with like Prodigy or at Onslaught Citadel or stuff like that, where it does even more and you feel even better about it. But again, the second like a Luke Cage, a Shadow King potentially that undoes stuff comes out, the card's a 3/3, and that doesn't feel great. And so I do like, here's the thing, I like the card. I actually really think this is a really fun card. Got the bundle as well, because I can't avoid it. It's dude, Adia, however you say the name, whatever. Those Night Forge, the fantasy ones, every single time they get me, and I can't help it. I simply can't. They look so good.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's a really fun card. It just is simply like you either get the bonus or you're not getting anything here. There's no in betweens. With like a Man Thing, if they put a bigger card, you're not getting the Man Thing bonus.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so it's a fun card. I actually still really like it, and it's been a fun card that people have been playing a little bit more of, and there's a lot of ways to enable it. Yeah, it's just enjoyable. I don't hate the card.
Yeah, and I think that's just really solid. Like, especially, like, I know we're talking about tournament and stuff later, but like Diamondback is really good into Thanos right now, especially if they're just loading up the board with cards, because you can hazmat and hit everything, and then Diamondback adds that extra value, because a lot of times you're kind of just not going to have priority against Thanos, which is why Alioth also, like you said, is a bit of an issue, or just not an issue, but like it feels bad. And we complained, the past couple times about Thanos is an issue. It's the tech cards you can play with Thanos that makes it an issue, because you draw all those tech cards because you're drawing a bunch of cards all the time. Anywho, we're gonna actually start off the Yap today going over Prodigy, like Dan was saying too. So we're gonna go ahead and jump right into that, or not Prodigy, or Prodigy and Elixir.
I was about to say
Elixir to start, and then we'll talk about our Prodigy kind of stuff and everything as well.
Yeah. So this was originally data mined differently, but Elixir, as released, as he's going to be, is a 2-cost 3-power card that says on reveal, one of your cards destroyed last turn gets revived here. Now, Tuck, do you want to break down immediately? Like, I know we can talk about what we like about this card, what we don't, but again, this also is going to be a little bit of that snap back to reality section. So do you want to talk about the decks, what we want to do with this card first, and then go back into the snap to reality, or what do you want to do here?
Yeah, let's look at the decks we've composed first, and then we'll snap back to reality. And going off rips to what we're going to be starting off with, we do have this deck by Dance himself, which is a little bit of a glimpse into the future. It also has Kid Omega in this list as well.
Yeah. So Kid Omega is currently data mined, I believe, to be releasing next month, potentially. I think like midway through, according to Snap.fan. Yeah. So it's going to be potentially just, later on, maybe even with like a, so I believe June 23rd, I believe, or 12th. But anyway, they'll be dropping on June 12th, I believe, into a limited game mode, according to Snap.fan. And that's when Kid Omega's coming out. And like Elixir can be fun, but it feels really limiting. And I don't think with the tools that we currently have, we have good ways to use it. And I think that Kid Omega giving you the activate ability, if you don't know what Kid Omega does, as data mined, so subject to change, and this is again what we'll be talking about here in a second. Kid Omega as data mined is a 2-cost 2-power card that says activate, destroy the next card you play this turn to gain its power. Now I think it's gonna be really interesting, really fun thing. And then obviously with Elixir being able to work in retrospect, being able to get the bonuses. I like the idea with being able to use both Phoenix Force and Spider-Man as some additional ways to try to really combo some stuff together. I'd like the idea of trying to go for a final turn play of either doing a Nico ×2, Penny Parker, Nimrod. You've got a lot of different potential ways here, and this is extremely right. We don't even know the card is going to be coming out, so this is I'll put even more asterisks than I normally do on one of my dumb ideas. This though is what I kind of like. The first place I was thinking was Phoenix Force. And I know you can use that as an enabler for other things, but this in general feels like it has a lot of potentially really fun ways to go out. You may want a Black Panther in here instead of Destroyer is kind of something I was thinking, but otherwise, this is just in general where my mind's going to go to. And whenever Kid Omega actually does come out as data mine again, as on June 12th, we'll see what happens there. But this is where I was thinking. I know, and you helped me with this list, trying to streamline it.
Yeah, this is definitely where my head goes to one of the best decks in the future for Elixir as well. Something that's really cool about Kid Omega, it will be the second card like in the game that doesn't have to have an on reveal to destroy card. The first one being Atuma. So it's very interesting. But like Kid Omega working more like a Venom because it gains the card's power it destroys, opposed to just being a flat card on the board, is going to be really interesting, especially being a potential global kind of activate as well, in the sense it doesn't have to be on the same lane as the Shuri Nimrod to be able to destroy that Nimrod, gain that card's power, and then allow you to play the Elixir next turn to get another Nimrod on the board, since, you know, Elixir is limited to last turn played, which is very interesting with this as well, because originally, if we look at the data mines, because we're just going to, Elixir was data mined as a 1/1 activate. The next time one of your cards is destroyed this turn, revive it here. And that honestly would have been really sick, and it really would have enabled, I feel like, a lot more combo pieces. But there had to been something in testing where they're like, no, this is absolutely busted, and we have to put the condition where it is last turn. I saw Alex and Cozy talk about this. I do think Elixir would be better if it was your last card destroyed opposed to last turn. I think that would actually enable it to be a better card
I wouldn't mind that either, yeah.
But I like this kind of shell. I think you're going to be able to fine-tune this. I think there's a bunch of stuff we have going on, whether it's the Phoenix Force line, whether it is the Symbiote Spider-Man line. I think it is going to be a Nimrod kind of card, because, I mean, Kid Omega, I think, is a version of Nimrod or becomes Nimrod or something. So it's just also with the meta right now, there's Cosmo, there's Shadow King, there's Shang-Chi, there's Reality Stone. So sometimes, like right now, to get Elixir value, I feel like you may need an extra turn to be able to do Elixir things, which does stink. But
I was going to say as well, one of the other lines you could do, and we mentioned it, was you can play Kid Omega, activate, play Penny Parker, and then you Phoenix Force to get the extra energy. You can Zola the Phoenix Forced Penny Parker. Like there's a lot of weird stuff you could potentially do. I don't know if it's good, but again, those Phoenix Forces it counts as additional merge, which is part of the reason why we are using Penny instead of like a Psylocke here. But yeah, a lot of fun stuff here. But Tucker's got a list that, at least if you wanted to play it, you know, today when the card actually comes out, probably want to look at this.
Yeah, I think this is a little interesting. So this is another Phoenix Force list. But I don't necessarily know if Phoenix Force is the line here, or it might be an Anti-Venom instead, as just another potential enabler for this. You also have Esme to hopefully cheat out some of your top end. If not, I mean, a 3/4 Cassandra Nova, 3/4 Rock Slide, 3/4 Misery, 3/4 Darkhawk, you know, would be amazing. So you have these as just options here. You have Misery for your Hood, for your Korg, for your Cassandra Nova. Maybe you bring back your Cassandra Nova with Phoenix Force, and maybe you destroy it again. Like, you only, of course, have one Destroy Enabler in here, which is one of the things I was looking at when I was building this list, that maybe you want to add another one of those to kind of help to either get better Fire Hair value or Rock Slide. Maybe just putting a Venom in here, because Venom eating Cassandra Nova is pretty good, because you at least maintain that power on the board. So that would probably be something I would add in here. Maybe you do one less energy cheat, or maybe you don't do Esme, you do Venom instead. Granted, I'm probably higher on Esme than a lot of people, because Esme normally works a lot for me, which is, you know, I like Esme in that sense. So.
That's fair. That's fair. I think that this is another one where it's like, I think Esme may be fine here. Maybe you do another Destroy, but honestly, why don't you just have Kid Omega in Esme slot? I'm just saying.
I mean, that's true. Or Kid Omega and Esme slot could be nice, or even like.
But again, let's talk about cards that are here. Sorry, I'm distracted. I couldn't build with Elixir without going to Kid Omega. So I need to stop. But yes, this is probably better.
You could even potentially like. Yes, I know the Hood's great, and Hood, Misery, Fire Hair is just always so good getting extra demons, but it is possible maybe you don't run Hood and you run another Destroy card in that sense, and still are gaining power to enable some of these other options, or that's you take out the Hood for Kid Omega. I'm probably just on the Esme, like I'm telling you, like Esme getting a 3-cost Rock Slide is incredible. A 3/4 still, like Misery, maybe isn't a 4/8, but like you're able to play that final turn with Fire Hair stuff to enable more Darkhawk lines. Like there's a lot of ways I think you can actually play this to get some good value. It's just Darkhawk, Fire Hair is just something I thought of when it came to also potentially reviving these cards. I mean, a Cassandra Nova that's been destroyed and doesn't get hit with a Phoenix Force, and then you play a Korg out, or you play a Rock Slide into Elixir, and then Elixir revives the Cassandra Nova, you're also getting the extra value from the extra rocks in the deck.
I think there's a chance you may not want Surge here, because you can't. This is awkward with your Misery.
Yeah.
So I think if you swap maybe Surge for like a Carnage or a Killmonger,
Yeah.
That could also be another really fun line there too. But yeah, there's a lot of really fun stuff. I think we're both looking at that, the Phoenix. You want to get the value out of the card that you're destroying, because if you're getting the value out of it, you also want it to come back.
Yep.
So it's being very specific in that stuff makes a lot of sense here. And I like the way the Phoenix Force, Fire Hair, all these cards are going to be able to potentially work with that. And it's going to be really interesting. But yeah, so the card was, you said earlier, Tuck, the card was originally data mined to be an activatable 1-cost card.
Mm-hmm.
And it also, again, the text change where it's like the next time one of your cards is destroyed this turn, revive it here. And
it's just
worse now.
One of those instances where like the data mine cards, which is like data mines are always subject to change. And Dance and I were actually talking about this before the app, and Dance was getting super passionate about it. And
I realized I had to shut up so I could actually say this during the app.
And what you were saying was something along the lines of, I kind of wish we didn't get data mined so we wouldn't be as like disappointed, right?
Yeah, 100%. I am of the opinion that the best month was the November month of last season, or last year, when we had the Marvel Rivals collab coming up, and they didn't have that stuff in there, so that we weren't spoiled for any collabs and specific details, because that was so, I think it was so much better with that. I think that was, when that month came out, there was no like immediate hatred towards the cards or something like that. It was just like, oh, all these cards look so cool. We didn't see if there was a different version of Doom 2099 or Ice or or Luna Snow or anything like that, right? Like we just got all these cards and they were so much fun, so fresh. That's awesome. We spent like a whole bit of time a week or two ago talking about the cards that are coming out in 2 months.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so like Red Wing is another great example that you have here. If we never saw the data mined ability, so there was a data mined ability at one point where it was I believe it had 1/1 or a 1/2. That if I'm not mistaken, you can tell me if I'm incorrect here, but I believe it was like on reveal, return one of your 1-cost cards here to your hand, and it gets +2 power, I believe. Yeah, it was a 1/2 actually. I have it pulled up.
Yeah. Which works well with
like,
Sam
I
Wilson.
wouldn't.
Like it's Sam Wilson, Falcon's bird. Like Falcon, returns 1-drops to your hand, and it's targeted.
Like even if it was just a 1-cost card that did that, not even the plus. I don't have a quote on this, but I have heard it said that they didn't want to release 2 bounce cards in the same month. I believe was the logic for why they didn't want to do it. And like, really? Because it was that, and I think who's the other one? There was another bounce card that also released, I believe, that month technically.
It was Joaquim Torres.
I think it was Joaquim. Joaquim was the logic.
But it's like.
But why?
Anything. He's giving you the.
He is being used in bounce.
Enablers, but like.
They didn't want to release 2 cards that had been revealed in the same archetype. Is the logic we had heard.
Just pain.
I don't have a quote on this. I don't have the exact one in comparison to normal. But this is the stuff where it's like, I wouldn't hate Red Wing right now as much if I didn't have this other version. Isan's another really great example. Mm-hmm. Would he have been probably busted at his other version? Yes. But I stand by the fact I wish I had never seen that other version.
And the other version of Isan, by the way, was going to be a 6/13 legendary. It just says legendary. At the start of the game, if all your cards have different powers, give them +2.
It's like, this is. I hate the fact that we can look at a card and be like, this was gonna be something different, and now we got this instead. And I feel like I just don't like it anymore. And that's I really dislike that so heavily.
I have another one.
Because it feels like it just hurts. It just hurts to get something akin to that where it's just like, okay, cool. Thanks for just not giving me something fun here. Right? Starbrand, yeah, I was about to talk about him. Originally he was it was a 6/8 that said at the start of the game, get +2 power for each card in your deck with 10 or more power. Super cool. Mm-hmm. But again, there was a problem with it. We don't know what it was, but that had to get changed. Didn't
Zorn also have a different text too?
Ooh, I don't think Zorn did. Maybe I'm wrong. I think Zorn was similar, but you can prove me wrong here in a second.
Okay, no, Zorn has been the exact same the whole time.
Yeah, but I think at least just going off of this is just 2025. Mm-hmm. The cards came out in 2025. There are already 4 different cards here. that if we look at the different changes to the abilities, I'm like, oh, really? This is the change we got. Honestly, even the old version of Bullseye.
Yeah.
That was data mined when it was first data mined, like forever ago when the game first had stuff. It was gonna be a 1/2 on reveal. The next card you draw will be a 2-cost card.
Targeted draw.
I wish. Why don't we have that still? Like I don't want to say anything against these cards that we now have, other than Red Wing and stuff. Like
Other than Red
I wouldn't have anything to say against them, honestly. If it hadn't been, I think for this other version, it would have just been like, oh, this is just awkward. And I mean, honestly, for what's worth, you have one last one, I think, as well with Firehair. Firehair had originally been a 2/2 that said you can move this once. When this moves, revive one of your destroyed cards here. And but here's the thing: this is the only time I think we're going to talk about throughout all of these where it's like, I like the new version. I'm really happy with this. But every other one, I'm just like, yeah. I don't know. But that's just been my thought process as I'm going through this, and we just realizing like, I wish we didn't have these data mines.
Mm-hmm.
If we didn't have these data mines, I wouldn't have the sense of disappointment. It wouldn't be like, oh God, like when Isan changed, people were upset in data mines.
Yeah.
Second dinner, like everyone said, it's subject to change. It's subject to change. We say that it is subject to change.
Mm-hmm.
But we also,
it's different now. So like, I really think what makes it a bit better now, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm just gonna be devil's advocate here, is since we have snap packs instead of spotlight caches. I think spotlight caches make the data mine cards feel worse because you have to plan out your resources even more and like have to kind of plan around that. I'm going to be planning for this week, so I'm not opening these cards that are coming out this week because in a month and a half from now, this card's coming out potentially this way is what people were planning for and being upset in that sense. Whereas now we do have a better system, which I still think the system is better, but this system, in my opinion, I was saying this on stream, this system does not get good until they add the archetype spotlight packs or snap packs. I think when they have that is when this system actually gets good because then you can target cards for what you actually want to play. That is when the system gets better, and I'm hoping there's a way to even potentially get some of the newer cards in that opposed to it just being 2 months after they've released, now they're in this pack. I wonder if there's a way I don't know how you price it that way, but I think that is when snap packs genuinely are going to get good, is when they're either deck specific, like it's the creator's featured deck, or character specific potentially, because if you're missing the certain cards and it falls into the Avengers, you know what, then you can target it better that way, or when it's archetype specific. I think now it's so broad, it kind of feels like it feels bad. As soon as they can narrow it down and add the extra categories, that's what's really going to help snap packs improve. Yeah,
I think that's a really good way to say it as well. Just like it feels very close there, very very close and all that. I will say, it released last year, but the one I actually think we heard the most outcry of was Gore. Oh,
yeah, Gore was going to be absolutely insane.
Yeah. I would have no issue with this card if no one would have any issue with Gore if it just releases this, and no one does nowadays. But when the card came out, Gore currently is a 6-1 that says ongoing +2 for each on reveal and play. But as data mined, we didn't have any stats for him, but his ability said on reveal, destroy all 6-cost cards wherever they are.
Crazy, definitely busted, and I think that, but like
it's good it didn't come out, honestly, but I mean but also it was cool as hell.
Yeah, no, it was actually so freaking awesome. But I mean, it happens. But these cards, we're snapping back to reality now. This is what they looked like in the past. What we also had in the past, meaning this past weekend, is we actually did have the Crown, which is the first tournament of the month, going into this weekend having another follow-up tournament. But we did have a lot of people. I think we had about 40 or 50 people turn out to the Crown that Dance and I did get to cast as well. And we're going to go over some of the decks that they played and kind of tying that into where the meta is at currently with Snap overall. What are the decks?
I think the total was 58, by the way.
58, even better, 58 people, so even more than 40. And there's 400 people in the tournament this next Saturday, which will be at 12 p.m. EST or EDT. People correct me all the time on that. But
I don't know the difference.
One's like post daylight savings, one's before daylight savings, kind of thing.
That's dumb.
So
I don't care. It's ET. It's sorry. I don't care about that difference. I got DM'd by someone hosting the tournament earlier, and they're like, "Hey, were you planning on joining the tournament? Because you still haven't jumped in the server." And I was like, "Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I probably should do that." And I felt extremely called out. Where they said it's like you have ADHD or something. It's crazy.
Well, I'm glad.
And I was like, "How dare you?" I joined now. I found it really funny. Sorry. But
this
a version of this one.
Yes. So like I tried getting the list from because we got to cast it, we got to see all the list, and the list has been taken off Marvel Snap Zone. Take out speed and you put in Super Scroll, and it literally like Super Scroll was the difference maker in this tournament. This was the only Thanos build I saw with Super Scroll. So like just pretend speed's not on the screen here and it's Super Scroll instead of speed, which I like Super Scroll in that slot because ongoing Thanos was the main deck that went into the top 4 and won the mirror matches. We didn't see Tech Thanos go past the top 8 because Dragon took out Tech Thanos with Affliction in the top 8 and made it to the finals with Affliction, and then lost to the Thanos because of Super Scroll. Because I was talking to Dragon earlier actually, and Dragon was so worried about playing his Luke Cage out just because Super Scroll literally counters his entire deck if he plays the Luke Cage.
Which is, I think that's the Super Scroll really did a lot there, and was really it was a good card, honestly. So I thought it was smart from him, because there were many a times where I remember I was watching the final in particular. I'm like, this is where you play it, but there's no way for Dragon to know they don't have the Super Scroll. Or even on the final turn, right? If you drop Luke Cage in the final turn, final turn drop a Super Scroll, you're just like screwed, because these were open deck lists, and I think the Golden Gauntlet will be open deck list as well.
I think it is open deck list, and also the Golden Gauntlet is only 1 deck per person, whereas in this tournament it was 2 decks per person. So, and I want to note the specifics of open deck list and even 1 deck per tournament, or even 2 decks per tournament too. Like, Super Scroll is a card you tech more into a tournament setting than into a ladder setting, because you know you're going to be seeing more Thanos in a tournament, whereas ladder can be kind of whichever. Of course, play rates and, untap can help you kind of have a general basis, but as long as you have like the thorough idea and like how the meta is and you know what all the good people are playing, if it's a 400-person tournament, I think it's really great to assume, even the almost 60-person tournament for the crown, to assume it is better to have Super Scroll in this kind of iteration, even though it may offset your Wiccan curve a little bit, which is why people are including speed and another 3-drop instead of the Super Scroll. Sometimes it's better even not to have the Wiccan in that instance, just because you have the tech card that can allow you to go over the top.
Yeah, it's going to be there's a lot of stuff there, and I don't even know what I'm going to be running for the tournament, by the way, Tuck. I've been thinking about it. I've got no idea.
We got some time to prep. I think we have to lock in before the weekend. I mean, the super for the weekend, but
I have no idea. I'm gonna be honest. I have ADHD. I didn't think about that. Didn't even think about joining a server for it, so it's fine. But this deck was really cool. It's a really interesting one. I thought this was a lot of fun. This deck does a lot of really cool stuff, and it was very interesting. The threat of Shadow King as well, I'll say, in this list also felt it was so impactful. But it also the Luke Cage, like, we didn't see a counter matchup here, but this goes into 100% with like the Diamondback was really cool, but if it didn't work out, like, there's nothing you do with the Diamondback. It's just like, okay, it's a 3/3, which doesn't feel great.
Yeah, definitely.
But this was
feel great in that sense. But if you can hit it,
but if you again, that's it. That's it. If you hit it, yeah, it's amazing. And the Luna Snow is an additional hit for the stuff. The biggest thing I was surprised about with this entire list was there was no Red Guardian.
Yeah, I think he went more into the Sarah route here, to have just some potential other outlets, and he's got Cannonball as another tech card to kind of throw off if there's enough. Because I was talking to I kid you not, I was talking to Dragon about this before we were recording, and about like his matchup into Thanos and everything too, because I was trying to get a general idea, because like I'm not trying to bring Thanos to the tournament, I want to beat Thanos in the tournament, and this was a good idea that he had, and I was like, well, what would you change going into this knowing all that? And the Cannonball is something he had more for Affliction Mirrors. He thought he may see some more Affliction, so he had Cannonball for that. And then Sarah, he has Sarah to be able to enable him to be able to throw out some more of these Affliction tech pieces. But Thanos is running a lot of Mobius right now, so he's not always able to get that Sarah value he's looking for. So, like, there's trying to find out the rhyme and reason there, and not having a Red Guardian, like you're talking about, too, for the potential Luna Snow, being able to just make it so it's a negative Ice Cube on your opponent's side of the board, doesn't get the energy boost as well, is very interesting. I do like the Luna Snow in this a lot, too, as another potential Hazmat card. Something you can play down later in the game as well, even potentially end of the game, so that your opponent has another card on their side of the board that then gets afflicted with that negative power for Hazmat, and they don't have any way to kind of offset that, opposed to, you know, clogging their board kind of thing. So it's very interesting, and I really like the Invisible Woman in this a lot as well, especially into that Thanos matchup. I mean, it dies, of course, to like a Cosmo, or if it is more of a tech Thanos running Alioth, but if they're going to Alioth that lane, it kind of gives you options everywhere else. But being able to Hazmat at the very end of the game, hit an entire board, because Thanos right now is filling the entire board from what I've seen, whether it's ongoing or it's tech Thanos. It allows you to get bigger Ajax, more value for your Diamondback, potentially even just a Malekith, as well as another one of those enablers, Deck Thin, as well as Malekith won Dragon a match against a Krakoa Space Stone, because Malekith drew the Shadow King, and that offset the Space Stone before a Hazmat then also went off. So like there's a lot of different really cool ins and outs here, and Lizard's being used now, Dance, because of Luke Cage.
Lizard won one of the games I remember particularly, because it was literally the Lizard's singular point won the game. Yeah, I don't know. This is another really, so we're talking about this one a lot. This is a deck I think we both really enjoyed the gameplay from, especially a lot more, because it felt like there were a lot more ins and outs, a lot more interesting pieces. But I think another one that I really enjoyed personally, I was about to say, Prodigy Discard was a lot of fun to watch.
Which there's what Pogo had opposed to, because he played a mirror and he won the mirror. He did not have Meek in his list. He has Prodigy instead of Meek, and he used Prodigy on Collector to be able to have an additional Collector. But I will say the winner of this deck, for me at least, was Grandmaster. The Grandmaster moving Dakin out of lanes that he was getting contested in by potentially another Dakin or Mobius, or not Mobius, Morbius, was really impactful to help him spread his power differently, where Abra could not keep up. And Pogo also had insane draws the entire time he was playing, and always seemed to have a way to get another Muramasa shard for his Dakin. And
yes, I think that's one of the biggest things about this list. The fact that you can typically get at least 2 Muramasa shards is really good. I hadn't seen as much value from Grandmaster, so I'm glad that you had seen that in your matches that you had watched, and you had commentated in particular. But I also, one of the things I noticed about this list, which I like this list, but I'm going to say it is my criticism of it was the fact that, especially with both Frigga and Prodigy, both of those really benefit you getting some sort of payoff. And if you don't get that payoff, it can really, really hurt.
They're dead cards in your
hand. Especially with a lot. Yeah, so that was my biggest thing I noticed about this deck, where it's like I like what it's doing. It felt like a lot of fun, but if you didn't get the payoffs that you needed, then it can really hurt, because Meek being an additional payoff is a real thing, and not having it, there's a cost to it.
Yeah.
But the cost to it was, again, the benefits of getting that extra shard sometimes, an extra collector. There were a lot of different really cool pieces, and I really liked the whole thing. So that's not me saying anything against the deck or anything against who was it? Pogo, I believe, right?
Yeah, Pogo Sparky is playing this. Extra Bullseye is pretty nice.
Extra Bullseye was a lot of fun too. There was one game I saw where he had 3 Bullseyes.
Yeah.
One of the ones I had commentated he had 3 Bullseyes because of, I think it was Frigga, and then actually I don't even think it was a project. There was Friggas and copies for like locations. A lot of really fun stuff. A lot of really cool things you can do with this build, and I'm happy. As we had said, Prodigy felt like a lot of fun. A lot of people said they weren't really stoked on it, and and we're not talking about like the current meta right now in Snap, but if we were to, I'm just gonna say Prodigy's in a couple of those decks. But the biggest thing I'll say against it though is this week is the best Prodigy will ever be. Because it's the first week people are trying stuff out with him. People don't know what to do with him. As time goes on, we'll see if he actually holds that home or if he's just, if it's just better to have a different style of card instead of him. I think that's something we have to wait for time with.
I think that's a good point. I think also I'll say I said he was going to be the best card of the season. I think I'll back down a little bit from me being the best card. I think he's still one of the better cards and still a good card of the season. But I think to go off what you're saying, what's going to make the most impact on Prodigy above anything else is if something happens to Sam Wilson.
That's that's a big thing too. I think that's going to matter a lot because we both. I'll just tell you, we both had him as our number 2. We both had him as our number 2 in terms of favorites, and our number 1 is the one that I'm going to be honest, like that one. Like, there's no OTA this week, but if we talk about when we talk about next week, I think it's like a little like hit there, but we'll spoilers for.
You think
a single? I think you take a point of power away.
Oh man, I don't think the card needs that change. I think a lot of other cards need changes before that card.
I think a lot of cards need changes. I think that's one of them.
Oh man, I don't think it's that impactful, but nonetheless, we'll be talking about that next week. We're not going to
spoilers for next week. Spoilers.
Dan's not going to be fighting next week, okay? But moving over to our next.
We always debate. This was another really fun list that I really liked, and Gorgon as a counter to the Thanos matchup was awesome.
Yeah, very interesting. I've been playing a lot of small ball, or what Dance calls the Bast Spice Rack. The Gorgon is interesting into the Thanos matchup, but like honestly, I still would have Juggernaut over Gorgon, just as
I'd have Luke over Gorgon.
If you're facing a lot of affliction, yes.
I think with location and everything, it's just so good. But my biggest thing I felt when I watched this list get played is against Thanos, Gorgon, while it didn't seem incredible, right? I was able to watch the game in particular where it was this deck versus Thanos, and I think in the end this deck did lose. But the fight that it gave against Thanos was impactful because it stopped Thanos, I think every game bar one, stopped Thanos from getting the Wiccan Curve. And Gorgon didn't feel like if you're playing Gorgon, you don't get to see the value.
Yeah.
But your opponent has to deal with it. And then if your opponent wants to stop Gorgon, they have to waste a Mobius. They have to waste a what's the other one I'm thinking of? Red Guardian or like a Rogue or something like that, where they have to get rid of that. And it's not incredible. You don't get to see the value here in comparison to where you get to see with obviously a Juggernaut. But I 100% think that Gorgon was really solid here, and the only thing I would swap it for is another piece that would just help you out, akin to that Luke Cage.
And like, I've played the Luke Cage version of this list, and Juggernaut still just feels better. Even in
I agree that I think then I'd argue then that we're both incorrect, and Gorgon still wins.
No, Gorgon.
Honestly,
Gorgon is you don't play the Gorgon here. Because all of these
in tournaments,
all these Thanos lists are running Mobius as another just tech card in their list.
Yeah, but then that's their whole turn.
Well,
that's a turn 3.
They're still playing it on turn 3 anyways, and they're doing that still to be able to get Mockingbird value to offset what you're trying to do, because it offsets your surge. Like, you're not able to get the surge value here now if you're facing the Mobius, and like
if I played a Bass Fight Track small ball list, I think I was convinced by this list that I'd be using Gorgon.
I just think it's not the right slot. I think
no way, we disagree on something. That's unexpected on the Yap. Whoa. But, we always agree on everything. I'm just gonna take a sip of my coffee because I'm so surprised.
But I mean, hey, you do you. You do you. The next list we had, of course, is the Thanos tech list. That is running also Gorgon and Mobius, has White Widow in its shell.
Bro, is this 8 tech cards? Did we get to 8 tech cards here? White Widow, Cosmo, Gorgon, Mobius, Red Guardian, Enchantress, Legion, and I'm arguing the Reality Stone.
I mean, if you're gonna say Reality Stone, Soul Stone.
True. 8 tech cards.
Tech Thanos, bro.
God.
Technos.
God, I hate it. I hate it. It's a good deck. I hate it, but This is right. This is more pop. Is this more popular than ongoing Thanos? I actually don't think it is.
No, right now ongoing Thanos is more popular than this.
Yeah, in the top 50% of Infinite.
Also, this shell, like the tech cards that are used in this version of Tech Thanos are not the normal tech cards in Tech Thanos. This is just like a tournament setting build for Thanos.
Yeah. What else? Oh yeah, because this didn't have Sam. Didn't have Shang.
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, Shang's a harder card to be able to use potentially inside of. People are expecting Shang-Chi in tournaments.
And I think also with the crown, you could not have the same exact cards in both lists. So the other.
Oh, you couldn't copy any cards over?
I don't think you could copy any cards.
Okay.
Over. So the other list was like Zabu, Galacta, Gwenpool, Shank. So
that makes sense.
Shang-Chi in this one.
Yeah. Yeah. How many other lists do we have here?
We next have Heart of the Cards, which was playing this build of Surfer, which I really like, which is using U.S. Agent instead of Surge because Heart likes the U.S. Agent more than Surge itself. Yes, the Surge does enable you to do a lot of other Surfer things and kind of gives you some Sarah potential value, like without having to use Sarah. So I get the argument there, but Heart is he claims himself as a Surfer one trick. So if this is what Heart likes more, good for Heart. I think that is the flex spot though, is the U.S. Agent or Surge, and probably was Forge even before that. So it's just kind of what you're up against, and the U.S. Agent into Thanos, I think, is something he was looking to. And then Negasonic is incredible in this list.
Yeah.
You also Killmonger to be able to hit the stones, and then Fenris because of Negasonic, or even Gladiator. A Galactid Gladiator is really good. And potentially, let's say you have the U.S. Agent set up in that lane as well, into a Galactid Gladiator, you're going to pretty much kill anything. So there's a lot of just options there. Of course, Galacta into Captain Carter. There's a lot of just really cool lines here. He also, in other builds, had Prodigy in here as well. And I'm actually on the Makari wave now with Dance as just another great 3-drop that you can have on the board that just can stack power and potentially get into lanes you can't get into. Like a free 3-4 that can turn into a 3-6 is really solid.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing that I've also seen with Surfer lists in particular is the fact that Esme's felt amazing as well. Because Esme, especially with the Galacta, with the Sarah and such, because I've been running a list that uses both those, I love it there. It's felt really powerful, really impactful, and I've been enjoying it a lot. But in general, like this just feels like it has a lot of really pieces. And I like the Killmonger in particular because of the Clog. Whether that be from locations or it be from someone playing actually Clog. I think the Killmonger is another really good shout here. And Makari is just, as long as I don't look at the location where I want Makari to not go, right? If Murder World's on the board and then she gets drawn, I'm like, all right, I just don't look at Murder World. If that happens, right? That's what you have to say with Makari otherwise. But if we're talking tech, Red Guardian is, I think, the #1 tech card in Marvel Snap right now.
The absolute #1 card in Marvel Snap?
And most used tech card in Marvel Snap right now.
Really?
Yep. According to top 50% over the last, what is it? Let's go last 7 days to verify it. Last 30 days, it definitely was. If I limit it a bit more. We have a different one of our cards. We have other cards of ours that are going to actually take that spot. But if you go last 30 days, it is the most. But that's a different. I think there's a lot of reasons for why you can use Red Guardian.
Well, when I'm looking at top Infinite, top 50%, it's still Shang-Chi than Red Guardian.
Last 7 days? Sort by tier?
Days.
Oh, do you do popularity?
Yeah,
Popularity? That probably changes the way I look at it. Yeah, Shang-Chi takes the #1 slot if I do it that way. Yep.
And then Enchantress just barely above Red Guardian in the past 7 days.
I mean, if we're gonna talk about tech cards.
Well, we do have one more list.
Oh, we have one more. My apologies. Okay, let's.
List,
God, we have a lot of stuff.
The dock and discard with Meek instead of Prodigy, which was very interesting. Like I said, into the matchup, and the main point of the game between Abra and between Pogo, which was very interesting, is we did have Kunlun, which Meek was on the board, and Meek was able to move to Kunlun, but Grandmaster moved Doc in there as well, and that is what overtook the Meek to be able to take that lane. After Bullseye had already gone off 2, and there was another Doc on the board that only had 2 power, Before the Grandmaster happened, there was going to be, and then the final turn was Dokken into Grandmaster, into Blade, into Bullseye. So every single shard got hit, and that
Oh, wow,
Dokken
okay.
went from 2 power all the way up to I think it was 16 power. So he was able to tie right lane, overpower middle lane, and then tie left lane because he had the Prodigy Collector line, I believe. So
that's fun.
it was a very interesting hype match.
I mean, this deck I'm happy that Dokken is playable. I love it. The fact that it went from a card that I thought honestly should get another point of power to being a legitimately good card is really solid here. I think as time has gone on, I'm happy with the way this deck, do we think this deck is busted?
No.
I agree. I think the hit that they did to MODOK was a great hit because the deck is now still playable. It's not insane. And it just feels competitive. I love that stuff. I think it's a really cool pile of cards. This is one of those ones where I'm like, it's a newer style of deck, right? Like a lot of times in Marvel Snap, if you had a deck you were playing and then you left the game and you come back, you can play the deck still. If you were playing discard before, you still can, but this is one of the ones where I'd be like, discard definitely is the one where it's like, this isn't the same. I think discard is the one that's changed probably the most as time has gone on. You could argue Thanos probably, I think, as a secondary option, but discard and Thanos definitely changed. Surfer as well, but Surfer is consistently changing, so it's like I won't even say anything there.
And that's why I'm like, I can't wait for them to add the archetype-specific snap packs, so you can come back to the game and get the cards you want to be able to play the decks.
How much do you think those would have to cost? I think those would have to, specifically letting you target archetypes.
They might go to
I would say
7K.
I don't think, well, you can't do 7K because then it's the same thing as like buying the same stuff, right? 7K, 6K. I honestly say it would be 55 if you do it. And I know people are gonna be like, I don't want it. Like, no, it would be cards that are worse. You make it work. Like here's the thing, maybe you throw some Series 4 cards in there, maybe it goes lower, but legitimately, right? If they make a pack based off of this deck right here,
well, I mean,
it's Scorn.
What if they just make it the same price as the seasonal snap pack? So you can either get the seasonal for the ones currently, or you can do the archetype specific.
So actually, I think this is a perfect one to do it with if they did that. Okay. And I think that this one would be a potentially in between Series 5 or Series... Like, I think it's right in between the current Series 5 and later Series 1. Because for what it's worth, Meek, Grandmaster, and Dokken are all Series 4. Right. Whereas Scorn, Bullseye, and Frigga are all Series 5. So as much as I'd be like, well, then you get less value, I think this would be the one where it's, because again, specifically targeting an archetype is incredibly valuable. Yeah. This would be one where I'd be like, you would charge for this deck, right? It's a pack of 6 cards here. We did it a couple weeks ago, right? Where we talked about individual snap packs. We sold each other on them. This pack right here of the 6 cards that are Series 4 and Series 5, this would be one that's like, I'd say this could be 4,000, 5,000, and community is going to be upset no matter what, but it would make sense to me.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day too, like if it is the same price as like a seasonal snap pack, but you get the cards you want more than having to risk the odds of getting a 1 out of 5, you at least know if I get any one of these cards, it really does improve the discard deck I'm going to be playing.
Yeah, and honestly, another one you could do that with, I think, is also the Thanos. It's a list that really isn't. It's actually doing decently on the ladder, but like the Thanos Surtur list.
Oh, that list is crazy good.
It's a lot of fun, but that one is, again, that one has, I think, 4 Series 5 and 3 Series 4. But that's another one where it's like, if you do a list, and what's the other Series 4/5 card that if you wanted to, you'd be throwing inside of this? Like, honestly, you throw Prodigy in there too, right? For this deck, I don't know. For Bullseye. I'm trying to say, like, if it was 4 Series 4, like 4 Series 5, 3 Series 4, whatever, like, just it's an even amount.
I would throw Khonshu.
In this list?
Just if we're going for like the discard, I would go Khonshu before Prodigy.
That's fair. I mean,
because like archetype specific, if we're going off of that.
If we're doing archetype specific, then I also think we need to be talking about, Corvus and Proxima.
Corvus, Proxima.
Sorry, I'm not talking Black Knight.
Corvus, Proxima, Khonshu would bring that to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That'd be what, 8?
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. It's gonna be an interesting place when we actually see those, how much they're gonna cost, as well as whenever we get the Tucker pack, right? Because that's gonna be one that we're gonna get eventually, the Tucker snap pack. They said they were potentially gonna do some where it was like the creators.
That would be amazing, but we'll see if that happens.
He's confirming it's gonna happen. Got it. That is absolutely positively confirmed by Tucker. Not as confirmed as these tech cards potentially being questionable as tech cards.
As Dance transitions, we are going to start. We have a tier list for you guys for tech cards in alphabetical order. Some of them might be loose tech cards, so that's why we want you guys to let us know down below what you think.
So we have a definition.
Okay.
We tried to use this. We literally spent a lot of time trying to talk this through and make sure it made sense as a definition for the cards we'd be using. And maybe there are more that fit in this group, maybe there are less. The definition we used is: tech cards are designed to interfere with an opponent's strategy while not always directly enhancing your own position. That's really specific words, but the basics behind that is you want to mess with your opponent and you're not always getting a benefit there. That's the plan. Or your opponent's plan.
They're techie. They do things.
Yeah, and we did not put, there are a bunch of times where we're like, is this card a tech? Or like, no, this is like an enabler style card. And we'll talk about some of them at the end, I think, of the ones that we didn't have in this list.
Yeah.
But so argue with us about this bit, let us know. But we're going to be rating these cards based off of a series of things. What we got, Tuck?
So we are going to be starting off with Arrow. And I think Arrow is right now either okay or good.
I'm going to try to go for not just right now. I'm going to try to go for more broad as well, because I think that just in terms of the strength of a card, yes, the meta is maybe currently favorable, but just also to how playable or not playable a card might be. So, but at least right now, Arrow, I think I'd say is okay or good. I think it's solid. I'd say good. I don't think there's any issue with Arrow currently. Okay. It's a solid one. And as much as I don't like it, Alliath, I think, is one of the top tier. We're talking the strength of these cards, right? Alliath is an extremely,
and what it can do. Yes, I agree.
Yeah, there's a lot of pieces we can talk about with it in mind, and I think Alliath is one of those. Armor is one that's this is only good against Destroy as a tech piece, or stopping your opponent from their plan of using their own tech card against you.
Yeah, I think it's more of an okay kind of.
I'd honestly even put this in meh. I don't think armor is great anymore. I think that Cosmo does the job it wants to better nowadays.
So that's what I was going to say. Cosmo and Juggernaut are two cards that honestly protect your cards more and can give you more favorable win conditions into this. Of course, it's priority dependent, but I like the meh.
Yeah. And so then we have some that we even have a subject, a class in here for the debatable ones. And I think Black Bolt goes into that group because
yes. If it's not debatable though, I think it is another okay.
I think it's okay. I think it'd be okay.
Yeah.
The reason why I think it's not is because right, it does do it. It does do the exact thing.
Yeah.
It's just I don't know. I never look at a Black Bolt hitting me and I'm like, damn that tech card. It's I don't.
It depends on what you're
playing. I don't know.
It really depends on what you're playing.
Yeah.
But I've been using Black Bolt and that style of discard mill a lot more recently. And I've had some value from it, but not necessarily I Black Bolted, I won the game. It's more of I Black Bolted so I can play Stature.
And we're also debating because it's yes, is this is it really a tech card, or is it just it works for yourself here because, like you said, you're playing it to enable your stature. So we've got a couple other things like Silver Samurai and Moon Knight here, and I don't think they'd fit as easily into the debatable category. But
yes. Well, I think one of those
we'll get there.
Will be more debatable. The other one I think is different. But
I agree. It's weird that I agree with you and I know what exactly you're talking about. But Black Widow, I mean, this is just disrupting your opponent.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think it's meh right now.
I'd say bottom of okay still. I think it's still just good whenever you get to use it in a I could easily agree with you.
I
though.
just her being activate is I think what really offsets this for me, and that's why
fair.
it's more meh. But
Yeah.
if she was on reveal, I think it would be better. But they don't have that, you know.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a good thing that's not a thing because that's just not fun. And for what it's worth, right, if we're talking about the on reveals and such, we don't have a card that doubles abilities or something like that inside of this list. So we don't have Absorbed Man, Prodigy, Mystique. We're not going to find those cards in here because those are enablers. They just do the same thing as another card. So, yeah. But Baron Mordo, this is, I think, where Kang Tier exists.
Yes.
I think. So it's technically a tech card. It just sucks at being one.
Yeah, it would be like. I also wonder, is it like if Baron Mordo was actually for the entire game and not till final turn, would that be impactful? Or if it was Baron Mordo was an ongoing 3 cost, the top deck of your opponent's like draws for the remainder of the game cost 1 more. Like that would be
or even
interesting.
As we've seen with Surge now, right? It could just be an on reveal that says this. What is it? As long as this card exists, that card costs 6.
Yeah, or like,
that.
The ongoing though, it's like, I mean, maybe you have to make it more expensive, but each card your opponent draws costs 1 more.
God, that's an insane card. That would be a lot more, I think.
It'd be like a 4 costs, like a 4/1 or a 4/2, but
probably.
Nonetheless,
yeah.
Would be interesting, or like your opponent gets 1 less energy each turn, like a Havoc kind of thing, like a 4 cost. But we're not trying to make Baron Mordo crazy like that. But there's got to be some card in the future that negates energy in some sense. But we do have Baron Zemo, and I think Baron Zemo is another debatable.
This is again, right? It is a tech piece ish because you're gonna take that card away from your opponent, but it's like, are you playing it to take the card away from your opponent? And I don't think you really are. So Baron Zemo kind of fits into this debatable. This is why I think this category is gonna be a lot of fun. And this is one of the most subjective ones I think we've done subjective stuff in the past.
Yes.
This is especially as we get lower, and there's a lot of subjective pieces in here. So this is one. If y'all disagree with where we're putting these things, let us know because there's a good chance you might disagree.
But like real quick,
and
you know what's like not subjective, you guys? Dance's content being absolutely amazing. That's just a factual statement. Which, by the way, at this point in the video, if you guys are not following Dance or subscribed to Dance, make sure you hit all of his links that are down below. It's going to be his Twitch. It's going to be his Twitter. It's going to be his YouTube, where he is posting weekly content on YouTube again. He's also streaming almost every single day on Twitch because he is canonically just built different like that. So please make sure you are following him on all platforms while we try and get this man to Twitch partner. I think it's totally possible, and that's with the help of you guys. Please help this happen. All that info will be down in the description below. But moving on to another just meh card, potentially even Kang tier, I'm going to put Kyra.
Is Kyra worse in armor? I think she's better because she actually fits. Like she fits in more lists than I think armor does now because you don't need her everywhere.
I mean, it's a global ability. Kyra still feels bad, like, but I think, man, she's not Kang tier. I
don't think she's Kang tier, and I'm not saying that like it's a big step above armor. I'm saying like if we're talking with all these ranks and stuff, right? Armor here, Kyra's like she's above it, but I'm not saying it's a big difference.
No, I agree.
As a good card though, Cannonball. This is either I don't argue bottom top, but like argue bottom top or the top of good. That's weird phrasing. You know what I mean?
I think Cannonball is a top tier card, but he's not going to stay like number 2 in top tier. I think he's going to be either moving down or, like you said, top of good. I think one of those two. But he is actually an incredible card.
And I think if we're going to talk about, again, top tier, Cosmo deserves this.
Yes, Cosmo is at top tier now. I think, do we put him above Goliath? Because do we put
Goliath.
Do we put them above Goliath?
Yeah, a good boy, good dog, good girl, depending on what the lore is. God, it's.
The thing is,
I'm gonna say
you can play Cosmo on pretty much any turn past 3. Goliath, you can only play 1 turn. Yes, Goliath does shut down combo stuff, but I feel like Cosmo is an earlier snap condition that can really offset a lot of just different combo plays for late game, opposed to just, yes, of course, you have to have priority for Goliath to work, where you can play Cosmo on 3, on 4, on 5 without priority and be able to get value for later game stuff.
I'd argue that. I think Cosmo, I think it could eke it out. I could easily be convinced either way, but I'm not going to sweat this one. Where's Daredevil going? Because Daredevil, right, again, by this logic of like designing to interfere with your opponent's strategy, you directly see your opponent's strategy. That's the plan with this. You get to see this. I'd argue this is, it's near Black Widow, I think.
It's just, there's a time and place where Daredevil is relevant in the meta. It's just not right now.
That's fair. I don't mind putting it there. Doc Ock, I think is... There was a time where Doc Ock was definitely... I'd put him in like the okay category, but now he's not so much... Like, he's different now. The fact that he only pulls the single lowest power card, it's not the same.
It's
you thinking
really
top of
good into like the clog kind of aspect, like being able to potentially offset what your opponent's doing. Of course, there are some instances where Doc Ock pulls a Gore, or pulls a Null, or like pulls an Iron Man, which is not what you're trying to do. But then you can kind of still play around that and go over top that area, and it offsets still the combos your opponents are still trying to do. When Doc Ock could pull 4 cards, he was a top tier card. Like he was absolutely busted.
Definitely. I know the stats may not agree. I think Echo deserves okay. I know that she's not played a lot, but Echo blindness is real for a reason. And just shutting down your opponent entirely from putting any ongoing cards in a singular lane matters. Like, I don't think it's good, and I don't think it deserves to be meh. It's not played a lot, but I don't think that means it's bad.
Okay, I'm going to let you talk about Electra before I say my...
Dude, Electra's and Kang. Done. All right, what did you want to say about Echo? Like, that's it. It's just... it's not good.
Yes, Echo blindness is a thing, but it's like there's more one cost I would still play before Echo, even though Echo is a tech piece, into these like ongoing matchups, because this is only against ongoing. Like this is the only counter. Of course, we're gonna have other cards like Enchantress next up that only works against ongoing, but it would be different if Echo's ability was a little bit different. Like this does give you a single lane staple, kind of like a Jean Grey, but like. I think the play rate of this card kind of has an impact in my opinion. I think it's kind of like a Daredevil in a sense. It's kind of situational because like I'm still not seeing, with all the ongoing stuff we have going on, playing Echo to counter that.
You want me to tell you why I think we're not seeing it? And I think it's because they've killed Cerebro 2. And I know it's like a bit where it's like, okay, why am I talking about a dead deck if I'm trying to argue a card's good? When Cerebro 2 was a thing, Echo was insane in that pile. And I think she still is. But the problem is there's just not a deck that can utilize her. Potentially similar to like we saw with Dakin, right? Dakin is a good card now because we have a deck that utilizes him. Before then, maybe we would have thrown him all the way down like Meh or Kang or whatever, right? But like now we can use it, and that changes the way the card works. And I think that's what changes my mind here for this, where it's like, we've seen this card work really well. Yes, we have not seen that in a second because Second Dinner has made balance changes that have rendered the best decks for this card worse. But I don't think that means that the card is meh. I think it's still okay. It just doesn't have a good place. It doesn't have a good home.
I will let you keep it in okay. I still think
I'll take the pity okay. I'll take the pity okay. I'd be hurt if it went to Matt, honestly. But Enchantress,
top tier.
Yeah, I agree. No issues here. Fenris is a fun one if we're gonna talk about like this debatable stuff, because technically you're thinking like, okay, well, Fenris doesn't fit there, but if you're playing Hela, you have to play differently with the Fenris. If you're playing a discard deck, you have to play differently with Fenris. If you're playing a destroy deck, you're playing differently, or Phoenix Force, you're playing differently because of Fenris. And so while it is a tech card, but is it just debatable as a tech card, or how do you feel here?
I think we're looking at the Surfer deck that Harley Cards was playing, and like
Mhm.
the Gladiator value. Like, yes, there's of course decks that are always like that are just going ahead and discarding stuff, and there's ones that are destroying stuff. But I think even right now, as just a counterpiece to a lot of the stuff going on, and being able to have a priority Negasonic, or being able to have that Gladiator to destroy something of good value, I think Fenris is actually a tech card, and it is an activate tech card that we have right now, and I think it is okay.
Do you think, and I'm just going to ask you this, and then if you agree, I'll leave it. But again, according to the definition we talked about, do you think, according to definition, is Fenris Wolf is designed to interfere with an opponent's strategy while not always directly enhancing your own position? Because I feel like he always enhances your own position, I feel like.
If they've discarded or you've destroyed a card of value, there's a lot of times where you haven't really gotten crazy value from the destroyed. It's just making it so Fenris has something to summon again or revive. So
But you still stand by it with that in mind?
Yeah.
Then I won't push it. I won't push it.
I think it's
we've got a lot of cards.
Definitely debatable, but I think it is.
Well, if it's debatable, it should be indebatable. That's my argument.
No, I mean, like, it's debatable for Echo to be debatable too, but
All right. Let's talk about Ghost then. Fine. Ghost is an interesting one because your opponent, right? Your opponent can try to be dodging priority and all that stuff, and Ghost just says, doesn't matter what you're doing, I don't have prio.
I think it's another meta-relevant card, kind of like Daredevil. So I think it's still kind of and I think with like what we're running into with a lot of more of the Alliance, Cosmo being more popular as is, kind of tanks the value of Ghost right now too. I think it's kind of a Daredevil-esque card at the moment.
I think it's above Daredevil, and I actually think that the as we're talking about this is enough for me to say I think Doc Ock should be the bottom of OK currently.
Okay. And put Ghost top of Meh.
Oh, I think it should be. Is it better than Kyra in armor?
It's better than Daredevil, not armor.
That's where, yeah, I like that. Cool.
Yeah.
Gambit's a feels bad, right? He is technically a tech card because he can destroy a random card on your opponent's side. I don't think he's insane. I never liked the card. It's not fun because it's just like, okay, cool. You hit you had 2 triggers because you've decided to Gambit Wong stuff, and that's what's happened here. And I'm like, okay, yay. I think the card is good, and I don't like it.
You think it's good? Let's see.
There's a reason it's been played for months, even in lists where it's like middle. It's been played in DAC and discard.
Yeah.
Because the piece of hitting a random card of your opponents is good enough.
I think good. I think Gladiator right now is either top of good or low in top tier.
I'd put him top of good. Definitely.
Yeah. Because
I'm not gonna argue that.
And like stuff going around, so you're getting more Gladiator value. Even with Thanos isn't really running a lot of very like big cards, unless you're seeing more of the Surtur Thanos. You're cooked. But if you're not seeing that, this destroys a lot of those ongoing cards. Like, and this on curve can destroy also like a Gore potentially too. Like, there's a lot of just really good options for that there.
So I'm going to talk Goose here because I think I've mentioned this maybe last week, or maybe it was just in private conversation with you. The fact that we have so many smaller cards that scale, Goose has lost so much value. And my exact same argument I would make about Echo, I think could apply if it wasn't for that fact where we have so many scalers now. And I think because of that, it's pushed it all the way into King tier.
Yeah, Goose. Also, I think one of the biggest things that has pushed Goose into King tier is Space Stone.
Yeah, Space Stone as well, right? Like that. I mean, I love the way Space Stone works. I think it's a really good card to have, and just it's interesting, and I like it. But I definitely think that that in particular has changed my mind.
Yes. Next, we do have one of your favorite Spice Rack tech pieces. We have Gorgon, which, like, if we have Doc Ock and Echo and Fenris in okay, I think Gorgon goes in okay.
I agree. I think he goes above. Yep, right there. I'd say he's better than Echo. Honestly, I think he's better than Fenris. Is he better than Fenris?
I think in the situations, like, Gorgon is good into Thanos. It's good into, like, the Kate Bishop, Moon Girl kind of stuff. Whereas, like, Fenris, you can kind of play into almost anything. You just have to have a destroy enabler for it or something.
Or discard one too. Okay. I'll leave it there. That's fine. Invisible Woman's a really fun card. because you get the tech of kind of hiding your own cards, but it's also like it delays your opponent's plans because they can't interact with your stuff. Where do you feel like the card goes? Because I'm gonna be honest, I can't get a beat on it easily. It's almost like she's invisible.
The play rate is really low right now, but I honestly like this as okay, below Fenris here too.
I'd argue it, but you swap Gorgon and Invisible. I think Gorgon's still just better here, just in general, just because of maybe because of just the meta, but also I've also gotten screwed over by Gorgon enough times when I'm trying to play my Victoria hand stuff that I'm going to stand by Gorgon being more annoying, personally.
I respect it.
I'll be honest when I'm lying.
The Invisible Woman value that I saw in the tournament, which is different than
That's
a ladder
fair.
match or a conquest in general. But so like that's why
lots of different. Yeah, I'm okay with us just having different opinions there. Is Jean Grey top of Kang?
Yes.
I think she is probably going to be the most playable card in Kang tier, legitimately. She is not playable, but if we talk about any of these cards in Kang tier, I think she is the most playable.
Well, if we're talking about just the meta right now, I mean, Electra's a bit more playable than.
You're going to argue Electra's playable then?
More than Jean, yes.
I disagree, but that's fine.
I mean,
Iceman's a fun tech card, though.
A stone, like
true.
Hitting Kitty Pryde, hitting a demon.
Oh, yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'm still fine with her in this tier. Maybe she should be lower. I don't know. Iceman's a fun one, though. Because this is active disrupt. Like, this is one that I think, akin to Gorgon, you don't see the results of. And I see so many people, especially in bounce stuff, they're like, I cut Iceman. I wasn't getting anything from him. The best games with Iceman are similar to the stuff I was saying about with Gorgon. You don't see what it's done. This one I'd actually argue is good. Because of the repeatability. I think, yeah, it's in the good tier. And the biggest reason is the fact that, like, in bounce especially, giving them -3 cost, because I think that's probably accurate to what you could normally do.
Because you can play it on
matters.
1 or 2, Toxin it.
Joaquin. There are bounce lists that are playing it. I don't like Joaquin, but I've seen enough people trying to use it that I'm like, I don't know what they're getting that's actually getting value here.
3 Icemen can go off, yes. But
I'm probably stretching for that bit. I'm saying something as someone who doesn't know things.
I think at least 2 Icemen can go off. At least 2.
Mm-hmm.
But
you say this one. I know in my heart, I know where I want Juggernaut to go.
So at this point in the tier list, Juggernaut is the top of top tier.
Correct. I think you're correct, and I think there's one card that will take a spot.
Yeah.
I think he will be second best as we go on. And this is something we actually talked about, right? So Cam Best did a video, if y'all don't know, Cam Best did a video where he talked about the OTA and just like what he would do if he had an OTA.
Yep.
He said Juggernaut, and he wanted Juggernaut to get an increase in cost and power as a result. I think that is completely fair personally, and I think the best way you can describe him is, again, I think Cam Best did it. He said, this is similar to a 3-cost Goliath.
Yes.
And I agree with that statement.
It's a 3-cost Goliath with even another level of disrupt where you have no way to even get power in that lane.
Here's my thought with Juggernaut, by the way. I think Juggernaut, you either increase his cost and power, make him honestly akin to Cannonball, or secondarily, and this is one that I was kind of thinking about, and I haven't mentioned this, but I'll say it to you now, and I want your opinion here. I think this card could be grounds for a rework. Simply due to the unintuitive reaction regarding where the cards end up and what location they're played to, because they aren't played to the original and they're not played to whatever location they end up at, if they're unrevealed.
I see what you're saying. They don't like affect the location. Like, let's say you Juggernaut a card and it lands on Bar Sinister.
An unrevealed card.
Yeah, an unrevealed card and it lands on Bar Sinister. It does not go through the interaction of duplicating itself multiple times.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it also doesn't get the bonus. Let's imagine you also played, but then you had originally played Shuri's Lab. It doesn't get the ×2 bonus.
Yep.
So, in my opinion, Juggernaut is the least intuitive card in Marvel Snap. And that is the, like, I'm not even saying because it's super strong. I want a cost increase. I want that stuff because it's too strong. But simply due to how you can understand this card, I think Juggernaut is the most confusing card.
Yeah, I think, and what's like interesting too, it still works with Galacta. So like the the card still gets the Galacta buff even if it lands in Galacta's lane.
But not if you Juggernaut Galacta.
True.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, yeah. It's very, very interesting. But
yeah, that's why I say that. Yeah, definitely top tier though. Otherwise,
Killmonger I think is also a top tier card.
I think this is closer to good than top tier.
But like I think it's a cannonball kind of area.
I think Gladiator's closer to cannonball area though. I'll give you bottom and top. That's fine. I think I think the line between Killmonger and Gladiator is a little blurred, but I don't mind it.
Yeah. So Gladiator is a bit more meta dependent than Killmonger in the sense.
That's fair.
Like Hela, you never play Gladiator into Hela. Or if you are facing Surtur's really popular, you don't play Gladiator at all. And of course, Killmonger doesn't give you the value into those decks either, but it doesn't hinder you as much as playing Gladiator into those matchups.
Yeah, that's fair. We don't even need to talk. I will say for any audio listeners, we have a Kang tier for a reason. That's our next K. Leech is meh, and I'm happy with that, I think. I don't think he's Kang. Is he Kang actually right now?
Leech is Kang right now. Of course, he makes it so your 6-cost cards don't have abilities. That's his
Which I'm happy with that.
Which I'm glad it's not the way it was, because Leech Blink was one of the worst freaking months I think I've experienced in a long while.
Wasn't there like one point where he had his old text and they buffed him, and then immediately 2 weeks later it was like, nope, we did wrong. My fault. Our bad. Nope. Undo.
Yes.
The fastest Control Z in the West.
Yeah.
Maybe Shadow King was faster. Yeah.
Oh, no, so like the thing was Shadow King. Shadow King started off as a 4-cost, then went to a 3-cost. It was a 3-cost for almost forever, and then went 2-cost, and then they buffed it. Like there was a bunch of Shadow King stuff too. Like,
well, I was talking about from the 2-3 to a 2-2 bit.
Yes,
when they were trying to. That in particular, but yeah.
Overall, Shadow King has been through the ringer too.
Yeah. Oh no, it was exactly 14 days. So I have it actually. Fun fact: 1 year ago today, Leech had its old text of remove the text from cards with unreveal abilities in your opponent's hand, and was 4-cost.
Yeah. No, thank you.
1 year ago today, and then in 4 days from now is when they changed it back to being a 5/5.
Yeah, I like that way more. Lady Deathstrike, good.
I think Lady Deathstrike is good. I think this is. I don't like Iceman as low as he is, but I think Lady Deathstrike is in the middle of. Yeah, that's better. Yeah, Iceman. Like Gambit is random, but also like yes. And so one of the things we also talk about, I think this is our real first one we have here, and I think it fits for the description, right, that we already have of tech cards we adhered to. Location manipulation.
Yeah.
Because location manipulation immediately does make your opponent change their plan. And so I think Legion is one of those tech cards in that regard. So where is Legion for you here? I think, yeah, so like near top of good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that logic. But again, if we're going to talk about our definition of a tech card, is Loki really a tech card? Is he just more of a benefit? Because I think he's similar to a Festus. Like you're not hurting your opponent here. Unless
you draw their cards before they get their combo pieces.
Yeah,
so
but then
it's debatable.
Yeah, I think Loki's debatable. And this is why we're doing this here for y'all. Debate us, please. We'll read it. This is number 3. I'm going to forever say Luke Cage is too good. Well, sorry. I have Juggernaut as number 2 because I know who's number 1. I think Luke Cage will be number 3 at the end of this.
Okay. He kills 2 decks easily. And then the location disruption or benefit, I guess, now. Yeah,
you can benefit. Luke Cage onto a negative powered location, Luke Cage on the board, and then being able to Legion a negative power location, to like the location does -1 per turn or just -3 in general is insanely beneficial. It shuts down decks. It benefits your own. Luke Cage, one of the best deck cards in the game.
Yeah, easily. This right now is okay because of how popular Thanos
Magic
especially is. Magic is going to be okay.
Yeah, I think, and here's the one where maybe you can argue it's like not a tech card. But again, your opponent has a plan of 6 turns, or it's a location changer. There's a lot of ways I think Magic fits into that bit where it's like she does something different and changes up the way your opponent has to play the game. I'd argue this is bottom of good, actually. I think she's bottom of good.
Yeah.
I know that there.
If you're not, if you're not facing Thanos, this is.
Or if Thanos plays their Reality Stone early,
because they're trying to hit their wicked curve. Yeah.
This guy, he gets it.
Magneto's kind of fallen off recently, I would say. From he was in the original like Scream list, and then they've now just in Cannonball instead. I still don't think he's
not meh. I think he's top of okay.
Yeah, I like top of okay.
Like, he's a card. I don't think he's ever been changed basically since release.
No.
And I absolutely love. I think he's a really cool card.
Yeah, I'm here with him for okay.
Man Thing, and we also have US Agent in this. So this is one that we actually debated for a little bit, and we realized, well, we can put this in there whether or not it's debatable. This messes with your opponent's strategy.
Yep.
Because right now they have a disadvantage to playing their cheaper cards in this lane. However, we don't have Hazmat, if you know, because we're going alphabetically as close as we can, because Hazmat is specifically for an archetype. Yeah. Hazmat enables an archetype, whereas Man Thing actually messes with the way your opponent's going to play the game. So it's different stuff here, and I'm pointing this out, but I think that fits for it being a tech card. Do you think it's debatable? What do you think in here?
I think it's a tech card. I think it's still like an ongoing tech card that kind of, and it also hits your cards too, if you don't have the Luke Cage. So I think it's a double-edged sword kind of thing, kind of like another one of these cards we'll be talking about here in a second. So
I think. What are you thinking here? Sorry.
I think it's good.
I was gonna say right below Magneto, but I'm willing to. I don't think it's that far in good.
I think it's above.
I think Magic is just above. I agree with just above Magic. I'm also, by the way, audio listeners, I'm assuming you're trying to track. We're saying the names and trying to say where we're putting them for your own benefit, but understand that it's gonna be a little bit difficult.
Man Thing in good.
Man Thing in good. Bottom of good, if it helps. Master Mold is technically a tech card because you're clogging up your opponent's hand. They no longer have the free space for all the cards they want to do typically, and it normally benefits yourself. So I'd argue I think Black Widow's more playable than Master Mold. I think this is bottom of meh.
The difference is you can play Master Mold on final turn and get value you can't with Black Widow.
That's fair. Yeah, okay. I'd accept it either, swapping Black Widow there. This is, I think Mobius M. Mobius, especially, he ebbs and flows with the meta. And I'm going to give a hot take here. I think he's going to either I think he sits at the top of good or bottom of top tier.
He's top of good.
I don't even know if I like top tier. I don't think he's top tier. I think he's just a good card.
I think he's good, but I think he's like above Arrow.
Above Arrow, sure, yeah. Because I know it can ebb and flow with the meta, right? But it's just also like sometimes it works for location, sometimes it does. It does specific things. I think, yeah. I really like top of good. That's fair. So we said earlier we debated it. We said Black Bolt, not really a tech card, but now we've got Moon Knight, and I'd argue this is a tech card.
Yeah, I think Moon Knight is a tech.
It's weird that it's a line there.
More than like a Black Bolt. Yes, I mean Black Bolt does target the lowest cost card in hand, whereas Moon Knight's a broader in that sense.
I think we said it earlier, where it's like you're playing Black Bolt to specifically enable stature. Moon Knight does more, I think, typically.
Yes.
And I'd say he's okay. I definitely think Moon Knight is, like, especially the fact that he gets to target your own thing. Maybe top of meh is probably fair, actually. Yeah.
I mean, yes, he can hit Thanos if they don't have Soulstone down.
That's part of the reason why I kind of do like it, but this is one. So Negasonic Teenage Warhead, and part of the things why I say Juggernaut's so high, we've also seen with like low limited time game modes. Juggernaut and Negasonic Teenage Warhead are insanely valuable.
Yes, and get banned. Get banned.
For good reasons. For good reasons.
I think Negasonic is good and like above Ice Man.
You think just good? I think this is better than Cannonball. I think it's bottom of top tier.
Yeah, I mean it's priority driven. Priority
driven in the same way that Alioth is.
But game winning, like you have priority going into the final turn. You play Negasonic in a location that can only play one card, and then you just win. Yeah. Okay.
Like, dude, Negasonic and Mojo World.
Yeah.
One of my favorite combinations.
I
But if we're talking about Nico, so again, you got that location changer. It's a lot weaker of a. This might be top of debatable. I'm actually gonna say that. As much as I've really liked Nico, she's typically just an enabler for you, and only has like one thing that's really techie about her. It feels like.
I mean, all of her spells are techie.
Yeah, but again, I'm going back to the definition, which is why I wrote this down. I want to make sure we have something to adhere to. Only one of her spells specifically interferes with an opponent's strategy. Feels like, unless if you disagree, again, that's why we got this. We're making a conversation here.
Yeah, change location's the only one that interferes with what your opponents can do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here for debatable.
Here's the thing. I'm not going to argue that specific spell. Yes, but that's also why I think it is a debatable piece.
Well, also, like, Negasonic only hits one card for your opponent.
Yeah, but it is actively disrupting your opponent's plan. It's weird, right? This is, God, I love doing this stuff. I love being able to talk through this stuff with you. It's fun.
Yeah. Okay. We're here for debatable. That's fine.
Yeah. Comments, please. Let me know I'm wrong. But Nocturne, God, is where she's in meh, I think, right?
Yes, she is 100% meh.
Yeah. Where does she go?
Probably above Ghost. Potentially above Kyra, but
I like that. Yeah, it's fair.
all right. So we do have Polaris in here. We have Arrow in here, so it's another just good one of those like tech pieces that definitely falls into that line. And I think with the layers of Disrupt and especially like I'm talking about with meta kind of right now, I think Polaris is just good card. 3/5 moves literally pretty much any archetype at the moment. I think she's just good. I think, is she better than most of these?
Yeah.
Maybe right below Mobius?
I think, yeah, put her right next to Arrow. I think it's a really good spot for her. I think both of those fit there really well. Professor X, you might forget about the card, which is honestly, considering the ability, I appreciate that, honestly. I think like he is definitely, I think he's, right now, is he actually in King tier?
At the moment, he's King tier, yes. But
like, I know there have been versions.
He's more playable than Leech.
Yeah, I think there have been versions of him that have been better, but right now where we exist, definitely not. Quake is solid.
I think Quake, right now, it just doesn't have a lot of play rate, and you're maybe doing some other just location changers opposed to just disruptors. But I think she's okay right now. I think she's probably above like an Invisible Woman, potentially Gorgon Fenris.
Yeah, I'd put her right below Magneto. Yeah, again, she isn't being played a lot right now, but that's not saying she's not good. She is a very good card still.
I'm gonna put Red Guardian right above Enchantress since it can do on reveal, ongoing, or
I think it's better than Alioth because you shut down more and you can play it like it. I think it does more. I think it does simply more than Alioth. Like, yes, Alioth shuts down a lot, and maybe honestly Alioth could go even below Enchantress potentially. But I think that Red Guardians.
What about Cosmo? I think it might be Red Guardian than Cosmo.
I can see it either way, so I won't fight that.
Rocket and Groot. We were talking about how the OTA to Rocket and Groot losing a point of power wasn't too impactful. I think it's been impactful, yes. I don't think it's been anything crazy, but I think Rocket and Groot is still a good card.
I'd agree. I think they're definitely still a good card there. I think, yeah, I like the logic of them going. I think they're better than Lady. I'd put them above Lady Deathstrike, I think.
Yeah, I put them. Honestly, I still put them probably above Arrow.
And Polaris, then, I think.
Yeah, just.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Rogue, I think, is, if we have Magic and good, I think Rogue is good.
I agree with that. I think Rogue is just definitively good.
Yeah. Sandman is okay. I don't think Sandman is meh. I just think not a lot of. It's another one of those instances. This card is not getting played a lot. I don't think it's necessarily above Gorgon, but I think it's above an Invisible Woman or above an Echo.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Scarlet Witch is another. Could be okay, but I think top of meh.
I agree. I think that's fair. Yeah, Scarlet Witch is. I think Moon Knight's better than her. I'd swap those two, and otherwise, yeah.
At least with Moon Knight, you know what you're hitting in your hand, and you have better disrupt. Scarlet Witch is still the crazy unknown.
Yeah.
Which like, Scream is a top tier card. I will.
So this is the one that I'd say is one of the better cards that I could potentially see as an argument for debatable.
Yes.
But I think it still makes sense in this place because this is a disrupting card.
Yes.
Scream is a very disrupting card, and I think it makes sense up there. Shadow King is, I think our good tier is getting a bit. I'm gonna say this. I think Man Thing, Rogue, and Magic. The lists are gonna get longer, I know, but I think those three should move into the okay category. As we've like defined more stuff here, I think that makes sense.
I'm here for that. I think Shadow King is either top of good or top tier.
I'd say top of good. I like that.
Shang-Chi, number 1.
You're not hearing me argue. There's a reason I said Luke Cage is number 3 because I like the stuff.
So this card, Snowguard, actually is one of those cards that you may not think is a tech piece, but it has 2 enabling tech pieces. So here's the concept, right? So we have Snowguard, and we have another card in here that generates cards that are the tech cards. So we get if it is a debatable card in your guys' eyes, which I think is something we were talking about before this, but we are going to consider this a tech card. And I think
if you're telling me that a Snowguard Hawk on the final turn doesn't disrupt a mystery negative player who has already played Magic, I disagree with you entirely, and I think you're wrong. So this is definitely a textile card. I just wanted to say that.
And potentially, even if it's not just a Mr. Negative style, let's say it is Tokyo 2099, and you play your Hawk so your cards don't move at all, or your opponent's trying to play for it. I think there's a lot of instances, or even like you can't get into locations, or there's locations that are just benefiting your opponent more in that instance. Like you can turn off a Shuri's Lab so your opponent doesn't get the extra buff that you just got. Like there's a lot of just really good concepts there, or using the bear to get raptors more on your opponent's side of the board, or more squirrels. Like there's so many just pieces there. I don't think it's necessarily in the good tier, but I do think it is like, and I like this card, but I think it is more of an okay. I think potentially above Fenris, or actually Quake style, maybe above Quake, since it is more global.
I like that. Yeah, that's good. I think Silver Samurai goes above Kyera in the Met tier.
And we're having Silver Samurai and Moon Knight in these lists, like actually on the board, opposed to Black Bolt, since it is also affecting your style. But at the same time, you know, even with our whole thing of like can't give you a general benefit, it's kind of wavering that line that we've been talking about, the gray area when it comes to this.
Yeah, it's a fun line. It's a really fun, interesting line. I will say straight up though, I think Spider-Ham is good. Is it good actually? Is it good?
So I think Spider-Ham is okay. I like Iceman
more
than Spider-Ham because yes, a lot of Thanos. Spider-Ham hits Thanos. Counter argument Mobius is 0-12.
True. Yeah, it's a really easy counterable card. Yeah, I like it. I like it right below Gorgon. I think that's a fair place for it to be.
And then
Spider-Man Basic. It is disruptible, but it's not insane because it also has to move, and you lose. Like you don't know where it's going, and it does disrupt your opponent. I don't mind it. Yeah, I don't mind it next to Spider-Ham.
It's not
it's okay.
Now
I think Spider-Man 2099. This is either meh or king, I think. I know people are playing it a little bit, right? I'm not going to deny that, but I don't think it. I think if anything, the fact that people have played it has probably earned it a meh slot, but it's definitely not. I don't think it's even okay. I'd argue that.
I think it's still Kang tier.
You would argue that? I don't mind it.
I think it's still King tier.
I think it's top king. I think it's better than anything else we have there. I think it's playable. People are playing it. and seeing some results, so I'd argue it's there.
Stegron is okay.
This is, I'd argue, like closer to the top of okay.
Because it is a targeted move.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a potential clog card as well, because of the targeted move. I'm thinking Buffquake. Potentially
I like it.
Snow Guard. I'll just do Buffquake.
That works for me. So I know Storm's next, but I want to say again with the similar logic to Nico here, I actually think we should throw Agamotto in.
Okay, with the Arcana and everything.
Very specifically because of that Winds of Watoomb, which again we have exactly one of those skills, spells, whatever that affect it, but I'd honestly like this feels like even potentially above like a debate in the debate. It's just in the debatable, and I think it's just whether or not it's correct or not. I think it's a conversation, but I think it's one that should at least be acknowledged because how much the winds hurt, and that was the card that everyone said they wanted nerfed.
That's true. We'll see how it plays out next season as well.
True, but I wanted to throw that in there at least just as an aside.
And then,
but
we thinking
Storm
in.
Meh. Unfortunately.
Okay. But
I don't think it's Kang. I've been able to play it recently. I've actually had a lot of fun with some lists with it, but it's definitely. Oh, is it there? Yeah, it's probably top of meh. Actually, I'd argue that's fair. God, why did they hurt her? Why did they have to destroy her for Legion's sins? Makes no sense to me.
Supergiant is Kang tier right now.
I wish Supergiant was better. Supergiant's a really interesting card. If that one card that we saw for like Invisible Woman stuff, God, I want that to be a thing. Anyway, I like that.
Super Scroll is.
He's one that I could even argue is debatable.
Debatable. I mean, he is an ongoing tech piece that affects you and your opponent, and is.
But the only disruption he does is if your opponent already has done disruption.
Yeah.
And maybe even a similar way that we said we weren't putting Mystique and like Absorb Man in here, because those only copy things. Maybe Super Scroll should have been in that logic, but that's why that's why we have these. They're like, are they really tech?
Where
I like it.
Thunderbolt Ross
this is a fun one.
Is not debatable because it is impacted by your opponent spending energy or not. So that's
and you get a benefit specifically there.
Yep.
And maybe even changes your opponent's game plan where they're like, well, I have to do a worse thing here because of Thunderbolt Ross. Not really, because he's not good, but...
Top King.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Okay. Thanos is kind of the Nico Agamotto debatable argument because he does have the Reality Stone and Soul Stone, which are tech cards. Reality Stone changes location. Soul Stone makes it so Thanos can't be destroyed or discarded, which is a protective card like an armor, like a Kyera, like a Cosmo. So we have him in the debatable, but there was the argument we made also with Snowguard, creating the hawk and the bird. Granted, Thanos automatically has those in the deck, whereas you have to play out Snowguard to be able to get the options there.
I think Snowguard immediately gives you the tech pieces for it, whereas Thanos is also like, it's only a 1 in 6, maybe 1 in 3 chance that you have one of his stones. Not really. I know you draw a lot of them still. So I think he's the one I feel like is in the debatable is the most debatable. And could potentially be stretched out of there. But yeah, this is so when we were talking about a location manipulation, we said, well, Uatu manipulates locations, but what does this do to mess with your opponent?
You play onto the second or third location in the very beginning.
You play Uatu onto the second or third location. This can go top of Kang tier, in my opinion. I don't think this can go anywhere else. Or it goes into debatable. I think it's one of those two. But
I like Kang.
But with the same logic, though, of Ross, right? You have the actual thing that hurts. I can't really see it on chat because, again, the things are... wait, no. Oh, it's not this one yet. My bad. Wait, I thought we had... Do we not have Red Hulk in here?
No, we do not have Red Hulk in here.
Oh, I thought he was in here.
No, he's not.
Okay, well, that's one that maybe we can argue with. For what it's worth, speaking of some other ones, we don't actually have like a Cersei in here. We don't really have a Luna Snow. Some ones that you can maybe argue that are tech cards, but we didn't put all the debatable ones in here. U.S. Agent...
It's okay, potentially, like if we were to put Man Thing in good, we kind of have to put US Agent in good. But I think
he's better.
he's better than Man Thing.
I think so.
More power, cheaper, top of okay.
I agree with that. I mean, was it? I said he was good even before he did that -4, right? And then they had to bring him back. Oh, what are you thinking? Gambit leaving the good tier? Okay, I don't mind it. Honestly, I think US Agent should go bottom of good then.
Can do that.
Yeah, I like that. Okay.
And then we have Valkyrie.
Oh God, where does Valkyrie go in your eyes here?
I think she's meh.
I think she's worse than Black Widow if she goes in meh.
Yeah, I think it's just her at 5 cost is the feels bad. If her cost changes, then we can talk about this differently.
How would you like me? Would you like me to say for the how many times have we said on the on our podcast and
on the Yap?
Marvel Yap. I almost said the Snapcast. That's a different one. How many times would you like us to say that Valkyrie should be a 4 cost if Shang-Chi can exist there? Just saying. Doesn't make sense.
Viper.
This is disruption, right? You are, and maybe this is the line where it's like, okay, well then why isn't Claw? Why don't you have like Debris? Why is Luna Snow not here? I think Viper's different enough. Same thing to Annihilus as well.
And I think Viper's good.
I'd argue that. I like Viper in the good tier. I think Iceman's better than Viper.
Dance is very high on Iceman, if you guys did not know.
I am. Iceman hurts. He sucks.
Very high on Iceman. He sees him all the time.
I do.
All right.
It's annoying.
War
I think that
is okay.
So this is one that I was about to say. Is this how techie is this? Is this debatable? I kind of think this is closer to the debatable, like in the middle-ish.
You have to have
because it's a benefit
for it.
It's the benefit for yourself, but then it's also like, does it? Yeah, I like it in this debatable tier.
And then we have Wave.
This is another one I think is debatable. But what are you thinking here?
Since this impacts you and your opponents, but in like the same sense, it's a benefit for your opponent sometimes. Making their 6 cost cards cost 4, making your 6 cost cards cost 4. It's very interesting. I think it is probably debatable tier, but I do think it is a tech card, nonetheless. So I'm cool with.
Yeah, I think we both have some cards that are debatable that we'd argue maybe one way or another, but I think it's fair here. And again, I think White Widow is definitely a tech card, and it's a difference that you kind of see in between like Viper versus White Widow and Debris. God, I wish she wasn't Kang tier right now, but you're not wrong.
She is not good.
So Zorn is the only one that is not in the game yet, but I think Zorn has a real chance to be a real tech card because he moves all 3 and 4 cost cards from his location, right? I believe. This one's gonna be maybe debatable with the other stuff. I don't think it's gonna be amazing as a tech card, so yeah, probably Meh is gonna be fair here. I don't think he's gonna be worse than Valkyrie. I think he's gonna be a lot closer to like Armor Kyera level in the Meh tier if it matters, but it's a 2 cost. The 2 cost can matter a lot. If he was a 3 cost, I'd argue differently.
It's a 2 cost. It's like a Goose kind of situation. Like, of course it's different because Goose limits, you can still play cards there, but like this is 3s and 4s, like just don't get to sit.
Oh my gosh, that's the combo with Goose. I've said I want Goose to hit 3 costs, but you play Goose and Zorn in the same lane. That's the answer, Tucker. We found it. Why are you shaking your head? Why are you shaking your head about that?
Oh man, this card's really awesome variants like Echo, but it's just.
It's fair. Fine. You know what? I'll leave it there. That's fair. As the last one we've got is Yondu. Yondu feeling honestly pretty similar to Gladiator, but the fact it doesn't destroy anymore and it banishes is a big deal.
Yeah, because your enablers that get help from destroy as opposed to vanishing, it's just feels bad, and I think it's also in the meh.
I think. Yeah, it's better. It's high. It's definitely better than like Master Mold and such, right? Like if I'm saying I think it's going above Kyera actually. Right? If I look, you tell me Kyera or like Yondu has a better power level, I'd argue Yondu every time there. I think it's right there. Yeah. I mean, this is the full list kind of what we're thinking here of how tech cards exist currently in Marvel Snap. There's quite a few. Yeah, there you go. You can finally see them all here. I think this is probably going to be accurate. I think this is probably fair. Kang is the bottom of his own tier. I love that.
There's some personal bias, of course.
That we said there was going to be some. There's some. You think it's good? What are you proud of this?
Yeah, I think we did a pretty good job. Pretty fair, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I'll take.
Speaking of pretty good, y'all should be checking a pretty good channel I know. Tucker, TUCCRR, y'all, on YouTube, on Twitch, on the Tiki of the Talks, on the Twitters, X's, if you're there, right? Got to check him out every single one of those places because he's got some great content, some absolutely fire opinions on some rivals, on some Snap, and some very cool little moments that he might be sharing as well on those as a short or a TikTok. Really just a great place, a great person who y'all should be definitely subscribed to as you're watching this video. Go right down below. Subscribe to the channel, share it, share his channel with other people. Doesn't have to be this video, okay? I'm not just saying it because I'm here, right? Share a different video of his. They're all really cool. He does a really great job of what he does. He's a great he's a great time, and you're already here, so why not give him that extra love? Drop a like too.
But we do want to say thank you guys so much for watching the video. Let us know down below, where did we mess up? Where do you agree? And Mango, I'm waiting for your comment here on this video. But we want to say thank you guys so much, very much for watching. Very much. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you guys did stick around to the very end, let us know down below. Are you guys going to be participating in the tournament? If not, what are you guys hoping to see in the tournament? Hopefully not Thanos. But yeah.
What should we run? Do you know what you're running?
I have a general idea what I'm like testing and stuff. But we'll see what happens in the tournament, what people will be running and stuff. And if you guys are opening for Elixir, I hope you guys find the right deck for Elixir. But yeah, until next time, it's been real. God bless, and laters.